Learning objectives. In this part of the module, we are going to understand why digital distractions can feel so powerful. To do that, we will look at 4 important ideas: dopamine, rewards, habits, and variable rewards. First, we will learn about dopamine in a simple way. You may have heard people say dopamine is the brain's pleasure chemical, but that idea is incomplete. In this lesson, we will understand it more clearly as something that helps drive attention and motivation. Next, we will explore rewards. A reward is anything your brain experiences as interesting, satisfying, or worth repeating. In the digital world, rewards can be very small, such as a like, a message, a new video, or even just seeing something new on the screen. Then, we will talk about habits. Habits are actions your brain learns to repeat automatically, especially when they happen over and over in the same situation. For example, if you feel bored and immediately reach for your phone, that can become a habit. Finally, we will examine variable rewards. These are rewards that are unpredictable. Sometimes there is something exciting when you check your phone, and sometimes there is not. That unpredictability is one reason digital platforms can hold attention so strongly. As we move through the next slides, keep one big question in mind. Why does the brain keep going back to devices, even when we do not always mean to? The ideas in this lesson will help answer that. Explain. Now let us begin with dopamine. A very common misunderstanding is that dopamine is simply the pleasure chemical. That description is too narrow. A better simple explanation is that dopamine is the brain's motivation messenger. In other words, dopamine is involved in helping the brain notice what might matter and what might be worth checking again. It is connected to wanting, seeking, and paying attention to possible rewards. You can think of it like this. The brain encounters something interesting, and dopamine helps create a message that says, "That was interesting," or "Let's check again." Notice that this is not exactly the same as deep happiness or true satisfaction. It is more about anticipation and the urge to look, explore, or repeat an action. This is very important in a digital world. Many apps and platforms are designed to trigger that feeling of curiosity. They do not always make us feel truly fulfilled, but they often make us want to come back and check again. So, building from our learning objectives, we now have the first key idea. The brain is not just chasing pleasure. Very often, it is responding to signals of possible reward. On the next slide, we will see how this process can turn into a repeating loop. Animation. This slide shows a very common attention loop in digital life. It begins with a notification. This could be a sound, a vibration, a pop-up, or even just the sight of a badge icon on a screen. That small signal captures attention. Next comes curiosity. Your brain starts wondering, who messaged me? What happened? Is it important? Is it exciting? This curiosity matters because it creates mental tension. You feel pulled to find out. Then comes the action. Check phone. You open the app or unlock the screen to see what is there. After that comes the reward. Sometimes the reward is a message from a friend. Sometimes it is a funny post, a new video, or something surprising. Even when the reward is small, the brain still registers that checking might have been worthwhile. Then the cycle repeats. Because the brain has learned that checking sometimes leads to something interesting, it becomes easier to check again the next time. Over time, this can become quick and automatic. This connects directly to the idea of habits from the earlier slide. A repeated loop like this can train the brain to respond without much conscious choice. That is why people sometimes pick up their phone even when they had no real reason to do so. On the next slide, we will look at places where this loop appears in everyday digital activities. Examples. This attention and reward loop shows up in many parts of modern technology. Let us look at a few familiar examples. First, social media. When you open a social media app, you may see likes, comments, new posts, or updates. Each one can act as a small reward. Because you do not know exactly what you will find, the urge to check can become strong. Second, gaming. Many games are designed around rewards such as points, upgrades, achievements, new levels, or surprise items. These rewards can keep the brain engaged and motivate repeated play. Third, YouTube. One video leads to another, and recommendations are often chosen to match your interests. This creates an ongoing stream of possible rewards, making it easy to keep watching. Fourth, messaging. A text from a friend can feel socially important. Since humans naturally care about connection and belonging, messages can be especially powerful attention triggers. Fifth, online shopping. Browsing products, seeing discounts, or discovering something unexpected can also activate curiosity and reward seeking. Even just scrolling can create a feeling that something interesting might appear next. Across all these examples, the pattern is similar. There is a cue, then curiosity, then checking, then some kind of reward. This is where dopamine, rewards, and habits all connect together. And this prepares us for the most important point of the lesson. Understanding this process does not mean technology is the enemy. It means we are learning how to use it wisely. Important message. This is the key takeaway from the lesson. Technology is not bad. Phones, apps, games, and online platforms can be useful, enjoyable, creative, and socially meaningful. They can help us learn, communicate, relax, and express ourselves. So the goal of mindfulness is not to reject technology or be afraid of it. Instead, the goal is to become more aware of how technology interacts with your attention. When you understand how dopamine, rewards, and habits work, you gain more choice. You begin to notice when you are using technology on purpose and when you are just reacting automatically. That is the real skill we want to build. The ability to choose when you use technology, how long you use it, and why you are using it. This is a form of mental strength. It means your attention is becoming guided more by intention and less by impulse. So, as we conclude this sequence of slides, remember the progression we followed. First, we identified the key ideas: dopamine, rewards, habits, and variable rewards. Then we learned that dopamine is better understood as a motivation messenger. After that, we saw how notifications can create a repeating check and reward loop. Then we recognized that this pattern appears in many digital activities we use every day. Now we arrive at the most balanced conclusion. Technology itself is not the problem. The deeper challenge is learning to stay aware and to make conscious choices. That is what focus in a digital world really means.